Okay, Ingrid. So we've covered the toolbar at the very top and what that is. We've spoken about this top section of background image, profile name, profile photo, contact info, your link. We've also spoken about optimizing the open to work section and the services section, offering services. And we've spoken about the analytics and we've spoken about your about section. All of this is what I refer to as the top part of your profile, because technically that is the top part of your profile. Now we're going to get into the kind of middle part of your profile, which is activity. You can see it, and anyone who comes onto your profile can see this activity. We're going to talk about the experience section and education, skills, and recommendations. They also have the option of languages, interest, and there are a couple of other things that we'll speak about, which come up here in the add profile section. So this is the sort of the middle part of the profile, for want of a better word. So what's important to know is that I'm in your profile and you're seeing your profile. The recording is of as if you would be in your profile. However, anybody can come to your profile and see your activity. Now that's quite key. Yes, they can see what you say on other social media platforms, but not nearly as pointed and specific as this. So anybody on LinkedIn can see what you've posted and they can see what your comments are. Now, over the past while, you've just been supportive and said, well done, congrats, privileged to share, and so forth. And you can click on the show all comments here. And then this opens up all your activity. So all of your posts, all of your comments, videos, images, events, and then more would be your reactions. So just think about this for a second. Anybody can see what you react to. Now, a reaction on LinkedIn are these 5 options where you like something, where you celebrate something, where you support something, where you love something, you find something insightful, or you find something funny. Now, remember we spoke about the 90-day cycle on LinkedIn? Part of that is being very specific about how you're using your reactions and, yes, how you're using your comments. Now, I know that when we get into LinkedIn, it's wonderful to see all the things and places and people that we can connect with. But if anybody can see what you're reacting to, and you might, for example, come over and react to something that is a political discussion. I mean, it's not for me to say whether politics has a place on social media or not, but just consider the point I'm making here is anybody can see what you react to. So be conscious of using your reactions in a more strategic way. Now, I'm going to level up on that and tell you how I use my reactions, because whatever I have reacted to, I can come to my profile and then toggle by those reactions. So in this instance, what I do is I strategically use these 5 different reactions to pinpoint certain conversations for me to come back to. So these 5 reactions aren't just like celebrate, support, love, insightful, and curious. They're also for me a code that I leave on a post so that I can come back to. So for example, I use the insightful reaction, which is the little curious, as my code for save this for when you can come back later. So the insightful reaction is somebody who I'm not connected to, who's a 3rd degree or even, 2nd degree connection, and I leave an insightful reaction on their post for me to come back and connect with that person and send them a message. Does that make sense? Nobody on LinkedIn knows this code,
Yes.
but I use that
Yes.
reaction in that way. So generally, I use my like, or actually my celebrate and support and love. I use for my ideal clients, for my existing clients. I use all of those for that. So those three I'm using for my community and my clients. The insightful I'm sharing for my note to come back. I don't want to get too complex with these codes because for sure I'll forget that along with the LinkedIn password that we all forget. So I just use the insightful for that. And then the funny, I actually use the funny reaction to anything that is a bit controversial in my focus patch, anything that might be somebody pushing the envelope or somebody stating something that's not correct. There are a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn. Some of the, I mean, not that I'm a recruiter, but I'm just saying in my space dealing with career strategy, as a career strategist working with people finding their calling, there's sometimes getting pitted amongst recruiters. I love and respect the industry. I was once a recruiter, but recruiters sometimes say the bizarrest things on LinkedIn. So I will use the funny reaction to everyone can publicly see that I'm laughing at what they're saying, but it's also my cue to come back and maybe call them out a bit on that, or remind myself of what the post is. And then I might convert that into a blog, or I might write an article about that. So I use the last two reactions strategically, which, hey, if you
Okay.
get five, why not use them for something else? The like reaction, I find I don't use that often. I tend to use the like reaction for somebody that I don't know, and I just kind of throw those around liberally. But the last two, you will not find me leaving an insightful reaction on a post that isn't something that I'm then going to come back to. Does that make sense?
Yes, and so Lisa, you just then go to the post and scroll through them and look for the one that you left
No.
in the
So
little life.
what I
So
do
can you
is I
search by?
all activity. So I come onto my profile, which
Mm,
is I'm you at the moment on your profile. I
yes,
scroll down to
yes,
activity. I then click
right,
on show all posts, which opens up
yes,
all activity. I then click on
right.
my reactions. And then
Oh,
there's
okay,
going to be loves, likes, and supports, which I scroll through. But then there's going to be,
right.
you see, it tells me you love
One
and
that's
like a lot of stuff, but
yes.
let's see if you've given a different type of reaction. It doesn't look like it yet. But then one of these would be Licia Dewing finds this insightful. That's my cue
Okay, so you got to
to go,
scroll. Okay,
yeah. So
perfect.
I'm just
Now
scrolling
I'm
through
with
what
you.
I've
I'm with
reacted
you.
on. So I'm not having to scroll forever and ever. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
okay,
It's just
makes
a
perfect
little
sense.
it's one of those small little user-friendly hacks that
Mm,
I enjoy about LinkedIn, and it makes more sense. If they're gonna tell me everything that I've reacted on, one, the point here is be aware that anybody can see everything you've reacted on. So we are living in a geopolitical,
yes.
polarized world. Be conscious of that. And also, if you're reacting to things that you take a stand against, like where's your authenticity? So everybody can see what you're liking. You want to then
Mm,
like and love things that are relevant to you. I worked with a client
right.
who offered phenomenal entrepreneurial services, but everything that she liked was not this stuff.
Aligned.
And that
Yes.
kind of didn't really make sense. Then the second point is use it for your own note pinning purpose.
Mhm.
Insightful and funny,
Nice.
but when you want to come back or call someone out or come back and just read it again and think about it. So I don't post a lot of insightful emojis, reactions, but when I do, I can then come back and I'm never going to lose it. It's just me coming back to my profile and looking for it. So
Great.
that's the thing about the see all activity. And then the other thing which is quite nice is if we click in the activity section, so LinkedIn has this, as you can see, in a whole separate section here. If you click into the pencil, it gives you the option to choose what of your activity you want people to see first. Now, most of it is defaulted to posts. So when you're actively creating content, you can default it to comments. So if I select comments and go save, this changes this view to everyone immediately seeing what you're commenting on. They can see it anyway if
Wow.
they're clicking on to see all activity, but this is just directing people who look at your profile to something specific. I wouldn't
Okay.
necessarily suggest using comments because that feels a little bit strange. You're sort of using your profile to send people who look at your profile to someone else's profile. I would definitely use
I
it
could do
either,
videos. Mm.
yes, videos, images, or newsletters or events or documents. And we're going to talk about what a document is and event, newsletter, and articles in the segment on your communication strategy, which is what are you saying? So don't worry, we're going to talk about all of that. But for now, if you had posted any images and you made images visible, then it actually is the post that you already had because they had images. Oh, look,
Yes.
there's a nice podcast. Hmm.
I saw that.
So you can select this. And again, I think this is a really clever way that you can get strategically. It will display content from
Yes.
the past 360 days. So this is a whole year's worth of content. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who are very big on video on LinkedIn, choosing the video option, and then what their profile looks like is almost a replica of their Instagram profile. Because Instagram
Yes.
Reels and videos is so massive and was
Mm.
more massive on Meta than it was LinkedIn, LinkedIn are slowly adjusting to that. So by choosing videos, people who come to look at your profile get that sort of Instagrammable feed with all the different
Mm.
videos here. So really nice options that LinkedIn create
Yes.
for people.
It's
Now,
great.
something else that's important to know in this activity section is here on the three little dots. If I click on the three little dots, remember we opened up that section in the services where it was saved posts.
Yes.
This is
Say
where if you
yes.
save anything, this is where it's going to
Okay.
come up. Now copy link
Right.
to post.
Right.
This is the original post that it's referring to. But if you
Okay.
had created here we go, you've created your own content and it gives us this option. See, it has this lovely option feature on top of profile. You only get that
Okay.
when you've created your own content. So here you've just reposted somebody else's post. You don't get to feature
Yes.
someone else's post on your profile. When you've created your own content, even though this is a repost of mine, but you made it a post by talking about it, you can click the
I
feature
can put it to the top.
on top of your profile.
Okay.
And what that looks like is super cool because now you get this lovely thing where right underneath, has it shown? Sorry, let me just refresh so that we've got the right view. There's you, and there we go, featured.
Here we go.
So
Yes.
suddenly above your activity, you've got some featured posts. Now,
Mm.
this is where it delves into even more great benefits for entrepreneurs. You click on the plus button. Once you've got a featured post up, you can open these other functions. Before you didn't have this post featured, these functions weren't available for you. Now, with one post featured, you click on the plus button and it can open up. You can feature another post. You can feature an article. You can add an article. You can add a link, and you can add media. So if we go to the add a link option, you can now add a totally external link. Sorry, my dog's agreeing. You can add a totally external link that gets featured on your profile. Now I'm going to go over to my profile for you to see the benefit of how this plays out. So separate to where you've added your website link in the contact info, separate to where you
Right.
have a call to action, my call to action looks different here because I've got the premium option. That's why I have an actual book an appointment
Right.
button. For you, you've got your
Okay.
website here, which is just as good.
Yes.
There's my about. There are my services populated. Here are my featured sections. Now, the featured section, the more you load, the smaller each gets. So I have
Okay.
replicated book a complementary career strategy call because it's that important and it's that powerful
Mm.
for me. And you get the nice link. This leads to my website. This isn't the Calendly link. I've also got a link,
Okay.
external link to join my career strategy club. And I've got an external link to join the waitlist for the next career purpose challenge. So when you click on these, it opens up as the media, and then you click view, and it opens up on the page
Oh,
that
on
I've
your
got
website.
in Kartra for to join the challenge. So there is a
Right.
lot that you can do in this featured section. And it all comes down to who do you want to connect with? What do you want them? How do you want them to feel?
Mm.
What action do you want them to take? Back to your profile. Right now, we've featured a post which beautifully and synchronistically talks about my podcast and where I interviewed you. But you could put a post up that talks about your primary Working Women's World service and why people should join Working Women's World and what the benefit is. And you feature that post. And excuse me, you have a post featured, and then you add a link to join the community.
So that link that you add is just an external link. It doesn't have to be a link. So you,
Nothing to
let's
do with
say I
LinkedIn.
put up a video to talk about, yeah, I put up a video to talk about my service. It's a video sort of post.
Mm.
I feature it, and then to add the link, do you add it in, like, where do you add it? Oh, there I
Yes.
see.
So you
Okay.
just
You just
click
click add link and
once you've got a featured, once you've activated the featured
mm,
option by
mm,
going to your activity, clicking on the three buttons and showing as featured, there it says remove from featured. So you have to have an
mm,
original post that you can feature. It can be a shared
yes,
post, like you're sharing my post, but you've added some
yes.
original content. Once you've got that on your
Mm,
profile, it unlocks the option to add other stuff. Now, the article that they're referring to here would be an article you've published on LinkedIn. Media would
okay.
simply be a photo, a presentation, or a document, but it's static. It wouldn't link through, it would just be that. So here, the biggest
Right.
benefit for us is add a link. And like I
Yes.
showed you on my profile, the more links you add, the smaller the icons become. I love the power of three. If I removed these two and just, or if I removed the call to action of the booking, the connection and the waitlist and just had the club, this would be one big image. I like to give people the option, join the waitlist, either book a call with me, join the club, or join the waitlist. So this is my low ticket membership, book a free call with me or join on the waitlist. Those are the most easiest things that people are going to say yes to in my business. This is not going to be
Great.
somewhere where you're going to feature a link to, I would necessarily say, a high touch, expensive one-on-one, because is a complete stranger going to say yes to that immediately? You want them to come into your world, leave an email address and book a call, or leave an email address and join a challenge or a waitlist or a freebie, or buy something that's not such a huge, big investment that they're going to say click to. So for me, featured needs to be how many yeses can you get from one person? And you give it to them there. You can have four. I just think that that might be splintering it too much. I've not always had links. Sometimes I have posts. So it's a nice way of changing up what's visible on your
Yes.
profile and what you use. So for now, your profile is perfectly programmed to promote my podcast, which is lovely. That you're
But
going to.
now, Alicia, if someone saw that though,
Mm,
there's no link to it,
Yes, there
or anything
is.
like that. They at least see it.
Well,
Where's the link?
it's a
They
post.
click
So
on it and then
they're going to click
yes.
on the post,
Okay.
and then it takes them to the original post that you shared a year ago
Okay,
that
and the link
says,
is
and
there.
then and it talks about you. So I mean, yes, it's promoting my podcast, but ultimately it's promoting you because it talks about you.
Yes. Okay. Oh,
So
cool.
nice things to use there. And we've activated the featured section on top of activity. And in the activity section, we were talking about the reactions. Moving on. Now, the next block is the experience section. Again, LinkedIn have it in its own separate little block. And this is where you're going to create your company page. So this is where it's your job history, basically. You don't have to put every single company that you've worked for. I always say to my both corporate clients and entrepreneurial clients, you want to be strategic. Yes, you have to kind of account for when you started working, but you don't have to put everything in between. You also don't have to put the months. You do have to put the years. So, for example, here you've got October 2024, January, but then here you've just got the years. So for me, it's about consistency. If you're going to put the months, stick with the months. If you're going to put the years, stick with the years. I'm
Mm,
just a stickler for that. It just kind of makes me go,
yeah.
well, if you started this in January, what month did you start this? Even though it's years ago, I'm still thinking in my head, why hasn't you got the months there? So I like choose one system and stick with it. And this is where you're going to create the company page for Metamorphosis. And you're also going to create, remember I told you about company pages up here on the For Business tab. You click Create Company
Yes.
Page. We're going to go ahead and create a company page right now for Working Woman's World. Are you happy with that?
Yes. And so, Lisa, I haven't put under my experience, I didn't put Working Women's World
No.
because I was running Metamorphosis and Working Women's World together. And
Yes.
like I said, I was promoting and marketing Working Women's World on other channels, being Instagram and Facebook, not on Metamorphosis. Whereas obviously Metamorphosis, the target market is big corporate clients. They're all on LinkedIn. And so that's why I put that there. So now, can I go back and add Working Women's World to my experience?
Absolutely. You can go back
And
into
does it come up chronologically or,
you can change
yeah, sorry.
everything when you add when you add a placeholder in your experience section. What actually comes up is you choose the dates, and you can go back into pre-Unilever and add your lemonade stand that you created when you were 30 and
Okay.
create a company page for that. So you control these dates.
It was an egg business.
Egg business, sorry, egg business. You create
Yes.
these dates, you create these company pages, and creating a company page on LinkedIn doesn't mean that it must be an actual official company with a PTY. It can be, as I said, I've got a company page for my podcast. Let's go to my section and
Wow.
you can see it a little bit more clearer. Sorry, let me just get to me. There we are. Um, And you can see what I mean by that. So scrolling down to the experience section there. So I created a company page for the Career Strategy Club that I started last year
Right.
in October, and you can add media icons to that. I called myself the founder of the Career Strategy Club. One, because that is completely correct. And two, that keyword is relevant. I wanted to start experimenting with coming up in searches for how would people react when they searched founder and they found me. I wanted to play around with that. But previous to that, here was my company page, which was in my name because as a solopreneur, my name was Lisa, my
Yes.
company's name was Lisa Doing Career Strategist. I just called it Lisa Doing Career Strategist Co. And I made sure that the icon was my logo, not a picture of me. So it was people understood what it was.
Yes.
And you can create different roles at your company. So the first role was career strategist and creator. because I wanted to have career strategist as many times on my profile. So that's what people would be, if people search for a career
Mm.
strategist, I would come up. And then the media that I add, again, third time that I've got, benefit from a 25-minute career strategy call, because that's my call to action. Where you add
Yes.
I'm going to show you where you add the media. And then the other element that I had, because remember in my job section, I've got keynote speaker, guest lecturer is professional speaker. Somebody's searching for a professional speaker, because this role
Right.
is on my profile, I'm going to come up and there I
Mm.
added links. Then my other company
Mm.
page is my podcast. Career
Yes.
Ambition Podcast,
Okay.
career strategist and online course creator, podcast host. And then you actually get into my worky work, which thankfully you got to click on see more, and it's buried all the way down, because that was all my corporate
Yeah.
stuff that I don't necessarily
Your
want to
past
promote.
life.
My past life. Now, these images that you get is what you add to your company page. I can't show you on my profile. I've got to show you on your profile. Is when you go into the experience section and you click the pencil, and I'm just going to use the metamorphosis page that you have here. You
Mm.
click into the pencil, and then in this section, you can add media. And now media
Yeah.
again is a link or an image. So I've been able to add links to the things that are relevant. I've added links to the various podcasts under the podcast company page, 3 different
Right.
podcasts. I've added links to the various speaking profile gigs that I've done that happen to have URLs. And then in Career Strategy Club, I've added images for the 3 stages of the club. I added images, and the image comes with, oops, I don't want to open up my folder, but when you add an image, it comes up with an option to add a URL in that image. Sometimes when you
Okay.
add the URL, you know how URLs sometimes don't show up properly? Like you add a URL and then
Yes.
it's the icon of a website that you don't want.
Yes.
There is a
Yes.
hack
Not
that
the
is
actual URL.
not the action. There is a hack to clean those URLs on LinkedIn. That's in the notes for this session that you'll see. But you can work around that by adding an image of the picture that you want, and on that image you can add a link. So there's sort of a bit of a workaround there. So the
Okay.
experience section, take your time in populating it. Think carefully about the different roles that you want to have, the different information that you want to position. Under metamorphosis, I would add at least three different roles, because you've been in this function for
Roles.
I would add strategic
Mm.
business consultant, brand strategy, and innovation concept development, or
Mm.
even training. So you've got all these big roles, because all it's going to do is just push Unilever down. Because ultimately, when I say push it down, they'll still be there, but it won't be as prevalent. And then you're going
Yes.
to add
Yes.
working women's world as well, and whatever else is relevant. I mean, my business is just me, Lisa, doing career strategist, but I created the company page for the Career Strategy Club, and I created the company page for the podcast, because it gives you so many great options. Because look what happens when
Yes.
people look at my profile. Here they go. I've got all these different other avenues that people can engage with me. So if they click on the company page for the Career Strategy Club, I've populated this. That's an interesting, it said allow pages to see that you visited them. And I'm going to make you follow my company page.
That's fine.
And there it is. It gives you home, about, and the information in the about is where you would then post the
Mm.
website and everything. So there. So the
Mm.
website is the sales page to join it.
Yeah. So,
So
Lisa, just
each,
going back to my experience there where I've got metamorphosis,
yeah,
I didn't create a company page there though, did I? I can't even remember.
no. So what you've,
Okay, so I've got
well,
to do that.
yeah, because if I click on there, it just doesn't bring up anything. So you've called it metamorphosis, but it doesn't come up as a
Yes, go
company.
anywhere.
You need to then
Okay,
go in here and create the company
yes,
page. Once
company
you've created
page.
the company page, you then need to add yourself to it. So you then need to go
Right,
into this, edit the metamorphosis section here, and make sure that you add yourself to the new company page, because it might not be, yeah, you've
exactly
got to
like
physically
that.
add it back to
Yes,
that page, yeah.
yes. Okay. When you say added back, is it a link or just the name that's got to
It's the
align?
name. It's the name.
Okay,
So for example,
okay.
again, I'm going to just test and show this is where you add a position. So I'm just going to say, call you founder. LinkedIn come up with drop-down options. You don't have to use them, but let's try co-founder. Employment type, I don't think is relevant. I just keep this blank unless you want to advertise that it's an internship or an apprentice, but full-time, part-time, self-employed, you don't have to state that. And here on the company page, we're going to, obviously we're going to delete it, but I'm going to add you, you see, to the Career Strategy Club. That's my company page that came up.
Yes, yes.
And then I'm not going to say that you're currently working in it. This is how you can choose the
The months
years.
and the year. Okay.
And then I do think, like, I don't go with month, I just go with the years. Location is important. So you want to add the location. Location type isn't important. On-site, hybrid, remote, I think that's not necessary. Description is important. 2,000 characters for each section. This is just for LinkedIn information. Where did you find this job? It's just for them to gather data. So if you choose to fill that in. Skills are relevant. We haven't got to that section yet on the profile, so I'll talk about that when we get there. And there's the add media section. Now, if I save
Right.
this, we've done the wrong. So start date needs to be later, and then
Yeah.
okay, and then just going to save this for the experiment that it is. There you go. Because the dates were down here after
Yes.
the dates of metamorphosis,
That.
you co-founded the Career Strategy Club 8 years ago, down there.
Okay.
So, and
Right.
now you can go into that and add whatever media you want to and
Okay.
whatever link. And if my thing doesn't come up, it won't come up. I won't be able to. I don't actually remember what it is, so I can't type it in anyway. But what I'm going to do is to delete that, you go into the pencil and you just go delete whole experience.
That's good.
So the
Okay.
experience section
Perfect.
is the populating your who do you
Mm.
want to connect with? How do you want them to feel? And what action do you want them to take in the next 90 days? If this feels overwhelming, because there's potentially so many different things that you can do, for me, don't worry about having it all there. Just put the most relevant, most recent position that you have as an entrepreneur that you want people to be attracted to, and you create a company page with that. You populate the company page so that it has a nice logo that,
Mm.
again, you use Canva for that. It has the company name, that's right. And if you don't have a website, because you don't need to have a website, you just need a company page. But this takes some thinking, takes some time, takes some poring over. Hopefully this is not creating overwhelm. This is creating excitement about
Oh, this is
how
great.
much
Yes.
you can do on LinkedIn and all the information. And then just very quickly, we've got three more things to talk about, and that's education, skills, and recommendations. So education is relevant and important. You want to add your education section here. It has to be a tertiary institution that is recognized on LinkedIn because they've created a presence on LinkedIn. So you can't add a short course. Sometimes you can if the tertiary institution that you did a short course through is there, but You've got to be authentic and it's got to be correct. The thing that I like about the education section is you can add media to it. So I do like using media to link to, for example, my South Africans who are based internationally. They can add information about the university that they went to so people understand them, particularly if it's not like an Ivy League university that everyone knows and has that international recognition of. This box is quite interesting. You get 1,000 different characters. Now, in the description box, what you don't need to talk about is what you studied, but you can talk about why you studied what you did. So, Ingrid, in your
Yeah.
case, because I know and love your career strategy story when we recorded that podcast, is you can say, I naturally gravitated to doing a Bachelor of Science because I wanted to make and create da da da. But what happened was that I moved into, I realized very soon that the laboratory wasn't a space for me. So I moved into entrepreneurship. Excuse me. So you can say quite a lot in this section here. Does that make sense? Oops, I mustn't save
Yes, no, it's great.
it. And then the skills section, you can add up to 100 skills on LinkedIn. Now, you want to add every single relevant skill that aligns to your work and what you do. LinkedIn give you some suggestions that make sense, so you're going to add those here. But the skills section for me is 100% keyword rich. Once you've added the skills, you can also reorder them. So you can move them around so that your most important skill is up at the top and your least important skill is down at the bottom. But skills, if you can use if LinkedIn give you 100, they used to only have 50, they used to only have 25, and now they've changed it to 100. Cram this with every single keyword that's relevant to your entrepreneurial business. And you don't have to just say what LinkedIn suggests. You can call yourself the skilled toast maker. And then you save that to your profile,
Yeah.
and there it comes up.
Oh, right.
The funny
Okay.
thing about skills is that people endorse skills, but it's a strange function. I genuinely don't understand what LinkedIn were thinking about it because random strangers endorse you for random things. You definitely can use humor here, but mainly the function for you, for us as an entrepreneur, is jam it with every single thing that could possibly get you in a higher search section for your ideal client.
I was going to say, so if you, like, if I was looking for a specific job, like a business development manager, and there were jobs out there that recruiters, they were looking for someone like that, would they match those two?
Yes.
Would I pop up because I've got that under skills?
Yes, you would, but you wouldn't necessarily be in the top of the search criteria. So, for example, someone's looking for a toast maker. Just because you've called yourself a toast maker under skills, you still need to have it in your headline. You still need to have it in
Right.
your about section. You still need to have
Mm,
it in your services, and you still need to have it in your profile. Then
right.
you're hitting more ways of being high up in the toast maker search engine of
Yeah.
that skill, but not
Yes.
just by simply listing it in the skill. So this is where you can go broad
Yeah.
and put all of the things that might be relevant for you that could potentially come up. There is no
Yeah.
right or wrong, and it's not about, oh gosh, don't state the obvious like Microsoft Excel. I mean, that's just a waste of words.
Yes.
Use,
Yes.
email marketing, strategic,
Mm.
everything. All right, I would take your,
Data. Yeah.
yeah,
Whatever.
key thing and then break it all down. And then a key important element about how do I look are the recommendations. This to me is basically the TripAdvisor of what you do. You can say all the most wonderful things in your headline, in your about section. You can offer the most wonderful services. You can call yourself the podcast host of wah, 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 wah. But unless somebody else reiterates that here, people are going to question that. So I get very concerned when I see a service provider who's offering services with 0 recommendations. Either they don't know that they can be recommended or nobody recommends them. And what you want to do in the recommendation section is you want to customize them. So you've got some lovely recommendations from back in the day referring to you in your corporate thing. You want to now start inviting your current clients and ideal clients to recommend you. There's never too many recommendations you can give and never too few that you can ask for. So just going over to my profile to make the point, if you go down to my recommendation section, all the way down here, I always direct clients who've booked a call with me on LinkedIn to come down and have a look at the recommendation section. I've got 80 recommendations and I've given a whole bunch of recommendations too, because for me, that is so important. And I ask my client, I give very detailed recommendations. Look how lovely and open white space, and it's like essay style recommendations for my clients. And I ask that in return from my clients. So asking for recommendations on LinkedIn is an art, and you definitely want to make sure that you get that, because somebody who's worked with me, who's scrolling through all these different types of people that I've worked with, men, women, young men, old men, young, senior, what have you, they're going to see somebody that they recognize. And when they do, they're going to go, oh, that's exactly the problem I have. I can work with Licia for that. So recommendations is
Awesome.
really a very, very important thing. And then the last few bits on your profile at the very bottom there is languages. I think if you speak a really interesting language, foreign language that might have some relevance to the rest of the world, definitely populate it. But if, like most of us, we all just speak English, you don't need to tell us you speak English. That's not necessary. I've got Spanish as a language because I do have a little bit of Spanish. I could find my way around if I was dropped in the middle of Madrid Central by helicopter. I could certainly survive. And I think it just adds that sort of global thing. So languages is something to offer. And then people that you follow, top voices, companies, groups, newsletters, anybody can see this. Other people can see who you follow and who you're kind of paying attention to. So I think that that's something to consider there. One other thing that you would have noticed is the ad profile section up at the top here. If you go into the ad profile section and just go through it, it mainly covers everything that we've done in the core. It then talks about some recommended. We've added features. License and certificates would be where you've done a course, but you haven't, it's not a tertiary institute. Projects is really interesting for me because a project name, for example, you get a lot of retail space here, 2,000 characters, and you can add media, a rich media link. So I, for example, am going to create a project, LinkedIn strategy course for entrepreneurs who don't think they need LinkedIn, and add this as a project, add the URL to it, and then talk about what this course is, and it's featured as a project. I have to connect the role that it was associated with. So, for example, under Metamorphosis, you can add a whole bunch of interesting things that you've done, Ingrid, case studies and type of work that will attract other people to you. You can even create a project for Working Women's World, set up and established a community and for your ideal clients. And then it just shows up on your profile. I need to go back to my profile so that you can see what that looks like. So just a quick click through to me, and you'll see it on my profile down at the bottom. Oops, I keep double clicking all the way down. There's activity, there's experience, there's education, projects.
Oh, right.
So one of my courses that I sell is the 21 Career Strategy 21 Daily Prompts. It's a digital download. You sign up for it and you get 21 daily prompts. So I've created that as a project, And if you click on the media icon, it opens directly to the sales page for it. So
Yes,
project is
very
a
nice.
really nice way for you to bring color and dimension to your profile. And there's no limit to how many projects you have listed there. And then all it does at the bottom, associated with Career Revolutions, then you go to the Career Revolution page, and does it actually say it? It used to say it, but it doesn't anymore. So it's just a separate section here that you're really maximizing all the visibility that you possibly can. So at the moment, I've got 9 projects. I've got a project for my podcast, for the 21 Daily Prompts, the Online Inspire Visibility Community, which is a private group that I host on LinkedIn, in that you will all be offered a membership to. It's free for the completion of this course. And then a bunch of masterclasses that I've done, because it just gives that visibility. I didn't create a project for the Career Strategy Club because I've got a whole company page for it, but I could go ahead and do that. And then the other thing that you'll see is that I've got volunteering activated, because I do some volunteering work and it's relevant there. So I've got that. There's the skills, Inspirer of Minds. Someone's endorsed me for that. And then there's the recommendations. Another thing to add here is that I've also got honors and awards. So I've put my LinkedIn top voice there. And then publications also comes up in that add option. Publications is where you can actually also add a rich media link. This is a publication to YouTube conversations that I've had. So publication, I've used it a bit strategically. It's not necessarily where I've written something, but it's where I've created something that lives on YouTube. And then if you click to show publication in the instance of this future CEO's interview, what it does is it takes me to the interview, which looks like I need to check that link because it's opening up on their podcast page, and I wanted to go straight to that particular podcast of me. So publications is another section that comes up in the add section to your profile up here, which I suggest it falls under the recommendation. Courses, add recommendations. No, it falls under additional. There we have volunteer, publications, honors and award, test scores, languages, organization, causes, and patents. So if you've invented something, you can let the LinkedIn universe know. So just click through the add to profile. Make sure you've ticked everything under call, everything under recommended that's relevant, and everything under additional to use all of the functions. And that, Ingrid, is profile optimization. How do I look? The tricks, the tools, the functions, and everything. It is a lot, but trust me when I say, if you just slowly start taking your way through it. So for now, in that 90-day plan, your 2 hours a week or 2 sessions a week, you're going to primarily invest in profile optimization. You're not going to overwhelm yourself with having to do it all in one day. You're going to choose those 2 times that you've spent, that you've blocked out, and you're going to add a little bit each week, twice a week, and then slowly get yourself to a point where your profile looks great. The second part of this course, which is who are you connected to, and the third part, which is your communication strategy, can all run in tandem. You don't have to get your profile fully optimized and then move on to the others. They're all interchangeable pieces, but know that by taking it strategically through the 3 key performance areas that we've broken down here, you're programming this super powerful tool to work for you.
So Lisa, quick question. We've obviously gone through my personal profile here, and I'm going to set up the company page for Working Women's World. All the stuff that we spoke here, all that extra detail, all those like strategic things that we can leverage, would I be duplicating that? I shouldn't say duplicating, because obviously it'll be a different slant on it.
Company
But would I
page,
do that?
no, company page is a totally different looking function. So it looks
Okay.
completely different and it doesn't have any of this. That's why LinkedIn profile is the most detailed personal profile. Company page really is just about, you populate, you put in the geographical area, and that's it. It's not nearly as detailed as this.
Okay, so you can't strategically leverage stuff on a company page,
You
really.
absolutely can, but there's so much to cover in that. We'll cover that in the
Okay, some
section
other time.
that goes through that. But thank you for your great questions, Ingrid.
The pleasure